Hello friends, welcome back to True Love Stories Hub. I'm no longer monetized by YouTube, so if you like my content and want to support me, please check out my Patreon. Thank you so much for being a regular viewer of the channel. People who were cheated on, what was the first sign your partner was being unfaithful? My then boyfriend and I were watching a movie and laughing, and as he stood up to go to the bathroom, I held up his phone for the Face ID unlock and told him I was going to look up at the cast because I thought I recognized one of the actors. Even though we had been relaxed and goofing a split second prior, he immediately became incredibly antsy and was leaning over my shoulder the whole time, reaching over and fidgeting like I was a loose cat walking on the nuclear launch keypad. I have never felt the urge or need to look through any of my partner's phones even after this incident, and he had never hesitated to do the hold up for Face ID thing to me before, so I found it extremely weird. Sure enough to find out a few months later he had accounts on multiple dating apps and had been cheating on me. Story 2. The first time she admitted it right after it happened, she said she was essayed, which turned out to be a lie. The second time she was out of town without me at a party, and the person who supposedly essayed her was there. When she got back, she was so excited to tell me all about hanging out with him. Unfortunately, I had basically negative self-confidence at the time, so it took a few months and many more coincidences of them hanging out for me to finally leave. Looking back, it was likely happening with other men as well, but I was too dumb to notice at the time. Story 3. I did not know at the time. It was not until I found her Google search history. Turns out she shared a Google account with my 11-year-old daughter, so everything she searched would be on my daughter's phone, including Google Maps timeline and even photos that were syncing. Driving to a state park with my daughter, I asked her to look up lyrics to a song we were listening to. She got out her phone and I looked over to see Mormon soaking in past searches under the search bar. I took note of that, and after my daughter went to sleep that night, I got on her phone and I found a whole plethora of what the actual F, but looking back on it, my dumb jokes did not land the same anymore. She was looking for ways to villainize me, loaded with questions. What does this mean? Whose handwriting is this? Subtle ways she changed her makeup, the way she did her hair. She started listening to different music, was guarded about her phone, and even yelled at me for trying to be silly and asked her who she was texting while we were watching a movie together as a family. She started talking about a coworker of hers a lot, then stopped suddenly. She even went on a road trip with that coworker to visit an old friend of theirs. I trusted her unquestionably. Walmart Plus receipts showed that she bought lube before going on that trip. Also, the van broke down on the way back from the road trip, and she had it towed to the town she worked in. She stayed there for 6 days until it was fixed. I would make chicken noodle soup from scratch and take pictures of it, proud as hell with myself. She was working late. Her only reply was, "Is the kitchen a mess?" Google Maps shows she would get off work at 8 p.m., go to a hotel with a jacuzzi suite, restaurant, movie theater, some residential house, fast food, then get home at 3 a.m., all while texting me that she missed our daughter and me and how much she wanted to be home. And when she did get home, she would sit on the porch smoking weed while on her phone. My daughter and I would not know she was home for a while. She was living a second life, boyfriend and his kids, which she was buying things for. Walmart Plus receipts showed snow gear, sleds, toys for a toddler, men's belts, pants, alcohol, take action pill. I had a vasectomy in 2016. While it left me in chronic pain, it did work. I got it because of how severe the complications were with the birth of our daughter. The midwife and doctor taking me to the side and telling me that we might want to start thinking about which one to save. We moved halfway across the country. I made some friends here, not many. I am socially inept with severe anxiety. After the separation, she told everyone that I got the vasectomy to spite her, knowing full well she wanted 2 more kids. She had a kid with her now husband last January. She had the same complications that she had with our daughter. Anyway, not only did she spread that around, but it turned out she was running a very effective smear campaign against me 2 years before the separation. Everyone turned against me. Wow. This turned into a rant. My bad. Felt kind of good to get out though. Story 4. She called me hammered drunk to say goodnight, all the sleep well and I love you. Then when we ended the call, she accidentally called me again doing the same thing. The I love you etc. still hammered drunk. It seemed suspicious, so I asked her what my name was and she repeated back another guy's full name. She meant to call him after me apparently, but was so blackout drunk she called me again. Story 5. Just being so mean suddenly, over any and everything, and I mean anything. I could try to start a conversation with him, ask what he was up to, forget to turn the fan off, ask if I could come with him when he was going to hang out with friends, and it would always result in me getting screamed at. Hell, one time I coughed too loud when I had COVID, so he came into the room just to yell at me to shout up because he was on the phone with someone. When they're cheating, they'll take any excuse to be mean to you. It's so bizarre. Story 6. On her phone 24/7, her face would light up with happiness every time her phone went off. After about 3 days of this, I asked if I could use her Facebook Marketplace to put an item up for sale. She refused. She told me to email everything to her and she would do it. We are standing here together, and she is saying no, I cannot use her Facebook and email it to her, and that mixed with the several days prior of the weirdness on the phone. I just said it, are you cheating on me? And she said yes. Now we are divorcing. Story 7. He started being very vague about people's gender when talking about who he was spending time with. My friend and I went, they did this, we went there, they bought that, and when I pointed it out, he would gaze at me and try to tell me he was not being vague, that I was making a big deal and being controlled. It was because he was hanging out with women and being very careful not to say that. This, and retroactively another sign that should have been obvious, was that he would get upset with me and stop talking to me for days at a time. Found out later he was using this time to cheat. He would arrange a fight so he would have an excuse not to talk to me for a while so he could talk to her, and he did the same to her so he could talk to me. Story 8. We are going back to college, but he had a new gal pal from the dorm that he was hanging around. She was in my circle, but we were not best buddies. He was talking about how good of friends they had become over the winter session. I found red hair on his pillow and that was it. To get him to admit it, I pretended I was psychic and had a dream that he cheated on me with her and told him that. He bugged out over my supposed psychic powers and confessed the whole thing. Then he went out with her for a good long while, and I think she punched him out in a bar one time because he cheated on her too. But we are going back to 1994-style college dorm drama, so it may or may not be accurate. I do know that on a drunken evening years later, she approached me to tell me that I handled the news of their cheating well, and she had a lot of respect for me because of that, so that was kind of a clue. Gotta love those old cheating stories. Story 9. Pattern of behavior suddenly changed. Quickly snap at me, had never spoken to me like that before, stopped texting regularly, and slammed the brakes on any kind of travel plans, outings, or dates. I let it go on like that for months before I found out through a mutual friend that he was in a full-blown relationship with someone else and could not leave me because he needed a place to stay until he could ask his new girlfriend to move in. Story 10. 1. I did not even have a clue until this day. He had to run into a store for an errand. My phone was dead, and I said, "Can I use yours, so I am not bored?" He said, "Sure." I said, "I am going to go through your stuff." Half joking, he gave me a weird look and said, okay. So I did. And he was messaging other women, asking for a date when we were sitting next to each other on New Year's Eve. Lol, I would not even suggest going through my partner's phone as a wiser adult, but I guess I am glad I did with that one. Story 11. Lack of affection was sign 1. No hand on my thigh while driving, no extra kisses, no holding me for a few extra minutes when I try to get out of bed to make breakfast. Small things. Then around the same time, he was getting extra exasperated during arguments. When I brought up something valid, he was extra short with me, and I could just tell he did not want to deal with it. When he said something along the lines of, someone else would feel lucky to deal with this issue you are complaining about, that is when I knew. A few weeks later, I got the "Hey girly" text. Story 12. Distant behavior and retreat into their phone or PC. Emphasis on first sign. It may not be full-on cheating at that point, but the indicator there is that they are engaging elsewhere while disengaging with you. So, something is wrong. Could be cheating, could be depression, could be anxiety over an issue they are not comfortable to share. Could be all the above. This can be emotionally harmful to you as well, due to the anxiety of the unknown and your natural gut feeling about something being off-prodding you. I advise caution and patience. Give them an opportunity to address this. You will feel better and be better able in the long run to look back favorably on your response if the outcome ends up being what you suspected. That helps immensely with moving on. Whether that opportunity be just a couple inquiries about how they are doing, is anything wrong? If walled off there too, give them enough rope to hang themselves with. Stick to what you can control and do not lower yourself to their shady level. It is not about being weak. Trust me, handling this maturity provides a tremendous boost to your ability to recover from it. Even if it is not cheating but something else that aggravates you, they broke a financial type rule between you two. They were guarded with an ailment inflicting them. They are having trouble keeping a secret about a friend of theirs that does not involve cheating on you. You do not want to go scorched earth, investigating only for it to be nothing to do with fidelity. Now your relationship is damaged anyway, hence caution and patience. Story 13. He was weirdly possessive about his phone. It absolutely had to be next to him 24/7. He would sleep with it under his pillow when he usually put it on the nightstand, and texting at weird angles and during inappropriate times, like he absolutely could not keep someone else waiting, like immediately after being intimate instead of cuddling with me. Normally, we would just share whoever's laptop was currently turned on, but he put a stop to that. He would make me turn on my own laptop for a quick Google search rather than letting me see his laptop screen. Stopped inviting me out with his friends. He stopped caring about me while being intimate. Also tried hard to push my boundaries as if someone else was letting him do something to them that I did not want done to me. He also got oddly clingy at the beginning of the affair. I think a tiny part of him was afraid I would find out, so he was trying to keep me occupied and distracted. Story 14. It is always the emotional distance first. When I was 20, my girlfriend was convinced by her friends that there is no way I am staying committed to her, and told her to get back. They even set her up with a guy and everything. I guess as she was working up the courage to go through with it, that is when I noticed the major behavior shift. I found out because those same friends rolled on her and recorded her giving blowy and posted it everywhere, calling her a cheating whore. While I did feel bad that she was humiliated, I was also angry that she took absolutely no responsibility for her actions and tried to blame them. It is not like anyone forced her to do anything. I could not even fathom why they would do this until one of those friends tried to be there for me and then ask me out shortly after. That is when I learned just how truly conniving women can be. Story 15. He started to be poorly with migraines every night and said he could not be bothered to be on his phone. All he wanted to do was sleep. Then when we did hang out, I saw another woman from the bar he drank at say, "So did you go and meet that girl then?" But it was me who had his phone in my hand. He said, "You just think into things too much. The girl she is talking about is you." A week later, we ended things. The next day, he had a new girlfriend, asked her to be his girlfriend within a week of knowing her, and got her pregnant 9 weeks in. I know this because a few weeks in, she reached out as she had suspicions that he had a girlfriend. We spoke and told each other everything. Based on the dates and times he had been in bed with me, texting her while I slept, then going out with her or getting drunk with her and texting me the next day saying he had been in bed all night unwell. She still stayed when she found out. He is her problem now, and you usually lose them how you got them. I am free to do as I choose, and she is stuck with a known liar and cheat. He denies being with me and said I was a psycho ex because he got caught out. Story 16. Partner and wife of 20 years. Stopped making plans together. I started being concerned about our finances and accessing online banking. Got a second phone for work, going to bed earlier, but staying up on the phone before suddenly putting it down when they heard me coming to bed. Working less from home and more in the office, but also being late more frequently. Turned off location services for the family accounts, changed the passcode on their phone, went and got Botox, started working out, constantly irritated. Everything was my fault, and no accountability or flexibility. I knew early doors that the writing was on the wall. Asked them about it, asked them to work with me. We have a 6-year-old autistic and partially deaf son, so I was desperate to make it work for him. I'm not interested. Cleared the savings account while I was away on a work trip, and ended the marriage over a phone call. Found out she was already taking our son to meet with the new partner, her boss from work, the cliché. Before we split, told me she was taking our son and relocating to another city. Fought through the courts asking for 50 custody, which she refused. $120K later, the court sided with me. She lied throughout, was caught numerous times. I mean, she lied about being in a new relationship even though she was pregnant 3.5 months after separation. Now she has financially ruined us both, is having to pay child support to me, and does not have the amazing life she thought she would have when she walked away, thought she was walking away with a lot financially, and child support payments for life. She was very wrong. My son cannot stand the new partner, so does not want to visit. It kills me to see him upset, but I tell him Mummy loves him very much, and he needs to give the new guy a chance and things will get better. She is super bitter. She sees me as the reason for unhappiness and will not accept she has done this to herself. 2 years on, it is still not over, and she recently made criminal allegations as a last-ditch effort to try and score some kind of victory over me. Utterly exhausted by the whole thing, but I get to see my boy and would spend the lot again in a heartbeat to achieve the same outcome. Story 17. This was years ago for me, but he kept making jokes about having another girlfriend. Then one night he was rushing me out of the house, and I came back for some reason. I do not remember what it was anymore, and I saw he had just been using the phone. When I questioned him, he denied even using the phone. Until that moment, I had no reason not to trust him. But after that, the truth came out. He admitted to seeing someone else for about 5 months or so. Story 18. I was home on army leave. At the time, my girlfriend picked me up from the time, and I was excited to go out and spend the night with her, something she and I had talked about a few weeks before I came home. On the way back, she told me she had made plans with her girlfriends to go out. I was disappointed, but it also gave me a chance to see my dad, so I was not too mad. Later that night, I got this nagging feeling. After seeing a few of my battle buddies have their Jody moments, the feeling was overwhelming. I decided to go to her house and, sure enough, her car was in the driveway. I know it might sound creepy, but I quietly made my way over to her bedroom window. I knew her blinds did not close all the way, and one of them had a small slit. I got as close as possible, and there she was, getting put through the mattress. Honestly, it broke my heart because I had been as loyal as could be, despite all the temptation around me. It took me a while to recover, until I met my wife. Story 19. The intimacy stops. They take their phone to the toilet with them, texting with the phone away from you. They get meaner about your appearance or traits they have never had issues with prior. Their routines change, go out more, for longer. Lies get elaborate, too many details and excuses for being out longer. Extra hours at work. My ex was so frigging obvious it hurt. He also changed his code on his phone. We had each other's code for if the other was driving and needed to respond to someone, etc. I finally found out on a holiday for his sister's wedding in Cancun, flew back the next day on my own, and have not looked back since. Story 20. She never physically cheated, but the first sign for me that she was monkey branching was when she got defensive when I asked her to tell her online male best friend about our relationship because I thought that it was healthy if all the people she was close with knew that she was not single because it would change their dynamic to a certain degree. Story 21. When she accused me of cheating, saying that my location was at a club all night. Bro, I was at home sleeping with my cats. The argument ended when I produced the logs of my door because my door logs when you open it and close it, lol. It showed that I came into my apartment around 6:13 p.m. and did not leave until 11 a.m. the next day. So unless I crawled out a window out of the 19th floor, I was home the whole time. Found out weeks later that she was projecting. Story 22. My girlfriend of 3 years always had excuses when I asked where she was or what she was doing. Did not answer texts or calls. One night we went to a club and she had too much to drink, so I went through her purse and found another cell phone in this secret pocket. I took pictures of all the text messages from all these other guys and all the pictures she had with these other guys. I was so broken. I woke her up and kicked her out of my hotel room. I took a flight the next day to come home. I have not talked to her ever since. Only regret I have is that she has a little daughter, and she and I were getting close. I hope her daughter does not turn out like her mom. Story 23. For me, the first sign was how suddenly his whole behavior changed. The same guy who used to insist that we text or FaceTime every day suddenly did not have time anymore. He was the one who had set that routine because I supposedly was not giving him enough attention at the beginning. But when I kept that same effort, he started acting like it was too much. I noticed he was more distant, quiet, and irritated. I tried to talk about it and said something felt off between us, but every time I brought it up, he would get defensive or angry. He always had an excuse: work stress, being tired, needing space, and somehow managed to make me feel like I was overreacting. I really tried to reconnect, suggested dates, planned activities, even spent money on things he had said he wanted to do. He would agree at first, then cancel at the last minute, or act annoyed when we did go. The emotional and physical connection just faded, and when I tried to show affection, he would say I was asking for too much. Looking back, that constant shift from "I need more from you" to "you are too demanding," and the gaslighting whenever I brought it up were the clearest signs. That is when I realized the problem was not me, it was him pulling away because something or someone else was going on. Story 24. I am going to tell you not to ignore the signs because you do not want to believe it, because you do not want to lose what you have or the one you have loved. But I will add that if you confront them and they sincerely want to and will rededicate themselves to you, it is worth fighting for. I am telling you from experience. I realize that what I have is far superior to everything I thought was better. I owe her every day for my mistakes while she hurts but fought to make it work because she was not done. I hope that anyone wanting redemption is truly working for it. Story 25. I do not know what has been going on with mine, but he has been getting phone calls and text real late at night, like after 9 to 10 p.m. After we put our baby to sleep, he will run off to another room to answer it and whisper. I have caught him a couple times talking to someone, but when I walk into the room, he hurries off the phone and acts like he was never on the phone. He has been leaving at random strange times like 2 p.m. just to run out real quick. I ask what for and he refuses to tell me. Never come back with anything though. Almost immediately jumps into the shower. I am so scared. I have had an intense gut feeling for weeks now. Story 26. Unfortunately, I have been through this a few times, and the first sign is usually they have their phone glued to them, and if they are super defensive, secretive, and overly aggravated when it comes to their phone, an over-the-top reaction usually screams guilt. Also, if they try to deflect or project onto you like accusing you of cheating with no reason, other signs are stories not adding up or changing. Too much detail usually means it is made up. Story 27. I am going to show my age here and admit how oblivious and trusting I was as a younger person. This was back in the day, as in when MySpace was still hanging on but Facebook was becoming more popular. I was exclusive with this guy, but we were not official because he wanted to keep it private from his crazy ex. We got along well, and he was always saying how good I was to him, but he would occasionally post angsty song lyrics on Facebook and talk about how women always screw over nice guys like him. I would have friends asking if we got in a fight or something, and what I would be like, no, he was here yesterday and everything was fine. He would play it off as my crazy ex called me, and I posted that because I was thinking about how she treated me. It took me longer than I care to admit, realizing his crazy ex was not an ex at all, and they had been off and on the whole time he was seeing me. He was a user in every possible way, always mooching me and his friends. In my defense, he was not the smartest person, but he could gaslight with the best, and was a skilled manipulator. He eventually got outed on social media because apparently he was even stringing a few gay guys along to get rides, money, gifts, etch out of them with promises of being together soon. I look back on that time and wonder what I was on not to see the signs, but at least I was not the only one taken in, I guess. Story 28 went from hating doing extra shifts at work, she hated taking them every weekend and refusing to let me drop her off or pick her up, to save trips and gas from there. I ended up catching her because I dropped by her work to bring something. I suspected stuff already, and surprise, she was not on the schedule for that shift or any other she had gone to work for. Called her, asking where she was. She said she was at work and had to get back, to which I replied we would be having this conversation face to face if she was. Story 29. My ex-wife and I took our kids to an indoor trampoline park where we just happened to run into a guy she knew from work and his 2 kids. She spent the entire time with him. We had a brand new infant, so I was entertaining our then 3-year-old instead of with us. From across the room, I watched him go heat a bottled up for her, hold the baby, which infuriated me, and then get paper towels for her when the baby spit up. The way they sat together and interacted, I knew. There were plenty of other signs following, but that was the first. Story 30. I never checked her phone. Ever. It is just not in my makeup to be that way. One day our daughter asked me to help her play a song on mommy's phone. The password would not work. She told me she had to change it with a recent iOS update. I did not suspect a thing. In the weeks and months that followed, she blindsided me by requesting a divorce out of nowhere. Nothing made sense. Later I found out she had been cheating on me with my best friend for years. They are together now and they deserve each other. Story 31. We lived near each other when we started dating, but then she had to relocate to a city 2 hours away. We decided to make it work, but suddenly she would only come out to me, never wanting me to ever come to her despite my insistence. I started questioning this, and that is when she stopped responding to all my calls, texts, etc. That is when my suspicions began. And I found out shortly after that she was in fact seeing someone else near home and did not want to risk anyone finding out she was also seeing me by having me come out to her. Story 32. When she started taking her phone to the bathroom, we lived in the same apartment, and when you are with someone all the time, you know all their little habits. Now obviously you can go to the bathroom with your phone. But every time she went to pee, she started to bring her phone, which was not normally like hers. About a month later, I decided to go through her phone one night. My gut was wrenching and sirens were telling me to look. Lo and behold, I found texts. Story 33. Suddenly was too busy and stopped asking me to come spend the night, saying he was going to his male coworker's house, but then I would not hear from him for the rest of the night. Turns out he was going to a coworker's house. It was just a girl's, and not the guy he was saying. There was one time I was spending the night and he said his work had rented out a movie theater for them to watch some movie. I asked if I could go, but he said something like, "Oh, it is rented out for my work, so no one from outside can go?" I do not remember the exact reasoning, but he dressed nicely for a movie. I am now partly convinced he either had a date with the girl he was cheating on me with and left me at his house, or he did not go to the movies at all and was out at dinner with her. Story 34. Started going through my phone looking for any proof and was convinced I was cheating at work or with these random people when I was not. Then started picking fights for no reason to have an excuse to leave the house to cool off. It would end up being a day or two, absolutely losing his mind when I picked up his phone to open it. What a time. Don't miss it. Story 35. I was convinced everyone had their eye on me and that everyone was looking to steal me away. That and baseless accusations of cheating put on you by them. That you are unsatisfied and looking elsewhere, or you have a wandering eye. Lots of unfounded paranoia talk that is just self-snitching so they feel better about doing bad things. The nail in the coffin that made me go, "Oh, it's really happening, isn't it?" is the whole "would you forgive me or still be with me if I caught feelings for someone else?" Hypothetically, just wanting to know for conversation's sake. Story 36. She was the sister of a friend. He started talking about her a lot for no reason. Also, his phone angle and always putting it face down. It was not that the phone was face down. I put my phone face down because of the pop socket. It was that he started putting his phone face down. Turns out he was sleeping with both the friend and the sister. I was in denial until I saw pictures. Listen to your instincts. I felt that something was wrong before I noticed the signs. Story 37. My things that he used to encourage, like, or say, didn't bother him. Like, I don't eat meat. He cut his meat intake and used to love cooking for us and joined me in what I ate. Suddenly he could not stand that I didn't eat meat and how he wanted to buy food and share it with me, and how he had never been with a woman who couldn't share food together. We would go to a Turkish grill and get platters, and he would get angry he couldn't get the big sharing platter because I wouldn't eat it. We went there every week for years, and suddenly it became a problem out of nowhere. He would go on and on about it, as if it was a serious, significant issue affecting his life in such a big way, and I could not understand what he was talking about. It wasn't about meat. It was because he was sharing food with someone else. Story 38. My partner has started giving excuses and avoiding spending time with me. Suddenly he finds me annoying for no reason and compares me to others, asking why I cannot do certain things. He is always busy on his phone lately and even replies to someone after I fall asleep. All of this makes me feel like he might be cheating or emotionally involved with someone else. Story 39. Purchases of records on our shared Amazon account were being sent to the house of someone I thought was my friend. He denied anything was going on beyond friendship and insisted she was a lesbian, that it was not like that. Then I caught them in his car, right in front of our apartment, clear as day from the window beside where I was nursing our baby to sleep. He still tried to deny it when he came into the house and punched me in the face, calling me crazy instead. Wildly, he kicked me and the baby out and moved in with his new partner 2 weeks later. She ended up being extremely unstable and regularly physically abusive toward him as he had been toward me, so it all kind of worked out. Story 40. When we took a break, she showed me her Facebook dating profile and smiled about it, and asked if I was looking around. I said no, and she seemed surprised by it. To cut the story a bit shorter, she started going to places that she had never really visited before, Sephora and clothing stores, and got her hair done. She first told me that she was seeing 2 friends of hers, friends she met in college, a couple, and the night of, she revealed that she was also seeing another guy she was entertaining. Yes, something happened that night, and she described it to me in detail. This is one of 2. Story 41. I cannot say he was cheating yet, but he was thinking about it. We planned a date. I told him we had a date planned already and if he could be back in time for that. Movies, I bought the tickets like a week before. He got so upset and mad and immediately started trying to defend himself, saying he was not going to cheat and why could he not go. I just stared at him. He then got even more emotional to the point of threatening self-harm if I did not let him go. Whatever. Glad we broke up because he caught some things and passed things around. Story 42. 33. Gut feeling. It is so real. That is combined with projection. He started accusing me of cheating and he got mean about it. Phone facing down, he would also come home and instead of coming straight in the house like he used to, he would spend 10 to 15 minutes in his car probably clearing his phone. They always fumble though. Caught him one day when he forgot to delete a missed FaceTime from none other than the one woman my gut was screaming at me about. Story 43. When I found some things that made me reasonably suspicious, rather than explaining what it was and giving me reassurance, he flipped out on me. Example, I was using my ex's phone for something. I think he told me to respond to a message for him or something while he was driving, and I came across a WhatsApp message from his ex that was just heart emojis. I did not lurk through the messages because I did not want to get my feelings hurt more. When I asked him about the hearts, he flipped out on me, calling me crazy and gaslighting me, telling me I did not see anything. It was weird. I did not go through his phone ever because I knew he was cheating and knew I would find stuff I did not like, and I felt stuck, so I just decided that ignorance was bliss. Story 44. She went from treating me like her obsession to obsessively talking about the other guy, and she would anxiously wait for texts from him and get upset when he did not text back quickly, like you expect a significant other to do. She also started looking at me like a roommate and finding every chance to make business meetings to go see him. They are now married. She even wore a nice dress to go see him once and asked me if she looked pretty. It was easy to see her eyes fully go off me and onto him. Story 45. No clue. I missed her first sign and her next 1,000 or so signs before catching her cheating more than 20 years into our relationship. I had no clue she was cheating on me before we got married. The sign I eventually noticed and caught was her going off on many girls' weekends. On its own, that isn't bad of course, but for us it was out of the ordinary. She hadn't done that before, and we were both 38 years old with 3 young kids who she stayed at home with. She began taking off on weekends. It didn't take long to realize she was cheating when that happened. After I found out, I kept quiet as I was looking for an attorney, a new place to move into, etc. Due to keeping quiet and not letting on that I knew, she ended up going off on like 6 or 7 weekends from July, August, September, and October of 2005. The kids were confused. She didn't call to tell them goodnight, and when I called her cell phone so they could say goodnight to their mom, she didn't answer. Story 46. He was up late one night texting someone, which was out of character for him. He wasn't a big nighttime phone user. I asked who he was texting, out of concern that he had an urgent situation or some complicated thing going on, not out of suspicion. I'm not a naturally nervous or suspicious person, at least I wasn't before this. Anyways, he tells me that he's talking to a friend about a college assignment due tomorrow, and he specifically used he/him pronouns when referring to this friend. A couple days later, he's talking to the same friend, again using he/him, and this time I looked at the name on the phone. It was a traditionally feminine name that he was talking with. He deliberately misled me twice by using masculine pronouns to make me think he was talking to another male. I confronted him about it, and he tried to say it was a slip of the tongue and just him talking too fast. He did have a naturally fast way of speaking, so at the time I did give him the benefit of the doubt. But within the next 2 weeks, the other signs piled on very quickly, and I got the full picture of what was happening. Cheaters often reveal themselves in small ways. To this day, I have a hard time with overanalyzing small things that often turn out to be inconsequential. It has very much affected my relationships and friendships. Story 47. It's always the phone. Taking a bit more time in the bathroom and looking nice to run errands, purchasing things online and driving to the next town over to pick them up, but coming home with no items. If they are non-smokers and their clothes smell like they've been at a bar. And finally, when they're home, they're never in the moment. When they come home, they jump in the shower first and go to bed early. Story 48. I suddenly couldn't touch or see his phone because I was controlling him. This was after I found out he cheated and apologized. He didn't want me to see his phone or talk about it to sort it out because then I was dramatic. I had to forgive instantly, smile, and never talk about it again. Can't believe I stayed too long. Like, sir, you lost all privacy on your phone the second you decided to be lustful. I hate these men. Story 49. She got a promotion at work and changed her working pattern. She had to stay late, sometimes work on Saturdays, and started to travel. I was happy about it, but I noticed a change in behavior, keeping distance, not having time for me. One day I asked what the problem was, and she confessed. It didn't come to my mind. The question was asked to see whether she was working too much and that she was too tired. Story 50. Our intimate life dropped dramatically. Suddenly, he was too tired very often. He got texts late at night on his work phone and phone calls he refused to answer because it was late. His work hours extended out of nowhere. He suddenly kept talking about the same girl. Coincidentally, I knew her from high school, saying how gross she was and how she got around at his work site. He was trying to throw me off, which made me suspicious. He gave me an STI, which I found out I had had for months. I got tested too early initially during the relationship, was suffering greatly, and went back and confirmed it the second time. Get tested regularly even if you are in a long-term relationship. Story 51. My ex-wife didn't come home for a few nights, saying she was out with friends. I went on our cell phone account back then. It would list who text we're going to, as you only had so many messages provided with your plan before you paid for more. I noticed there were back and forth texts with one number all night until about right when she got off work. I called the number. It was her male supervisor's voicemail. They were texting each other all shift long until they were together and obviously didn't have to text anymore. Story 52. Always telling you they were in the shower. I lived with my ex, and the shower would be bone dry, constantly watching your phone when it goes off, bringing it to you, or telling you who is calling before you can see yourself, outright asking who you are talking to even though you talk to the same group every day, telling you one of their friends is cheating and how they wouldn't do it. Suddenly the places you once enjoyed together don't like anymore, but they never suggest new experiences with you. May not fit everyone, but suddenly they change their wallpaper from a family photo to a calendar with a dog, suddenly getting a haircut after a period of not getting one, with no other issues preventing it, accusing you of cheating and your family and friends of helping you cheat, downloading texts even though they have active service, overly complimenting you every other word, listening to music about cheating while singing along happily. Short calls and dry messages may seem normal, but in context the signs add up. Story 53. When he started accusing me of cheating, it turned out he was the one who he was. I saw a text one night when he came home late and passed out from a contact known as L, and that's where it all went down. Considered emotional cheating, but part of me feels that is worse. We were married with 2 young children at the time, but we are still married today. Oddly enough, he was the one who helped me through it. After I had my first child, my attention was focused solely on the baby, not my husband. He tried to talk to me about how lonely he felt, and I didn't really listen. I have some guilt about that, so I'm partly to blame. Marriage can be hard work. Story 54. My ex-wife became incredibly possessive of her phone. If it left her side, she had eyes on it. When I finally asked her after a month to show me what was happening, she became over-the-top defensive, accusing me of projecting onto her. 1 month later, she told me we were breaking up and that marriage counseling wouldn't work. She continued to deny it for years after we split until she accidentally told me she and Neil, don't worry, he was married and still is, celebrated their dating anniversary of 3 years, which lined up with our relationship before I noticed the phone hiding. The twist is that she didn't know he was and still is married. For 5 years, they continued their relationship. When I found out he was married, it was after Neil refused to meet me over coffee. My ex and I have a daughter, so I could talk with him. The final nail was when she told me she had never been to his house because he lived with his ex-wife to maintain normalcy for their kid. She figured it out when Neil's wife posted on a Facebook group about how proud she was of her husband for chasing off a crackhead trying to cut off the cat from his truck after he proudly sent my ex the same video. Screw them both. They deserve each other. Story 55. He was very adamant about resetting the phone themselves before trading it in. It was to hide evidence. Started random fights about being overwhelmed by guilt. I wanted to check out new gyms and get dressed up to go there. Then wanting to do the same thing a week later. A lame excuse to buy alone time. That prompted checking location to find them in a secluded parking lot, not at a gym. Story 56. My ex started hiding his phone when he got Snapchats. Notifications would come in, and he would block the screen with his body or turn away from me. If I happened to be behind him, he'd turn his phone to the side or not reply until I wasn't paying attention. Near the end, he started accusing me of cheating and saying, "Let me see your phone," like I did something sketchy. Projection is so real. I was oblivious and trusting for so long, but my gut feeling kicked in after a while. I was even right about who he cheated with. I'm so happy I'm not with him anymore. He cheated for over a year. The proof was in his messenger. All he said was, "I forgot to delete those." I still think of what his dad said when he found out the truth. He traded a $100 bill for a penny. Story 57. She began going out with new friends. Our kids were young, and I'm very introverted, so I just stayed home. It became more frequent. Then phone calls. She would go into another room to answer. She was constantly getting texts and calls from a new friend, Katie. I was never asked to go to a party or meet new friends. Our conversations started to feel different. She acted like the things I said were the dumbest she had ever heard, and got annoyed by everything I did. One night she went out and didn't come home. I called her phone twice. She came home the next morning and said she fell asleep. I was pissed. She was pissed that I didn't believe her. The next day she told me she wanted a divorce. 2 weeks after separation, she was dating her friend John. Turns out he was Katie. After 2 months, she moved in with him and moved our boys in as well. I was depressed at first, but boosted my workouts, focused on my boys, and used it as fuel. After 4 months, she called saying she made a horrible mistake, but I told her to save it. 10 months after the separation, I met a truly beautiful woman, solid 9.5, which enraged my ex. At 13 months, the divorce was finalized, but she was still trying to sabotage my new relationship. It's been 8 years since the divorce. She's had 6 relationships I know of. I dated this new woman for 6 years. They hated each other. My ex constantly tried to stir things up and win me back. I've been dating an amazing woman for over a year now. My ex finally moved on. She lives just down the street. It's a good situation for my teenage boys. I like her boyfriend and she gets along with my girlfriend. In the end, I thank her for forcing me to level up my happiness. She put me through tremendous pain, but it made me who I am. It motivated me to become the person and dad I wanted to be. I still wish I hadn't been cheated on. It was a tough pill, but I've forgiven her, and we're trying to be the best co-parents we can be. Story 58. He silenced his phone after I started asking questions about his new friends from class. I caught him in some weird lies and realized he'd been manipulating me. I found a bunch of camming sites and an OnlyFans account he'd hidden for years while I'd been begging for answers about our dead bedroom. He tried to convince me he'd never cheated, despite me finding a huge stash of ED meds in his truck. I asked him to use his Facebook account for Marketplace, and he gave a weak excuse and let me use a second account I didn't even know he had. Story 59. He became super nice. Suddenly there to catch me when before he had been indifferent. I knew something was wrong. I was lucky to be young, and he's a pretty honest person, so when I asked what was up, he came clean. He had cheated with every person he'd been with except his most recent, whom he married and had a child with. After 25 plus years of cheating, I really think this one is the one. Story 60. She was always flirtatious, even pregnant with our first kid. She flirted with her personal trainer. Married for over a decade, working remotely together. She went home before I did. We talked every day while apart, and after a month she had nothing to say and couldn't wait to get off the phone. I knew then but didn't have proof. At home I found out she was involved in an emotional affair with a friend of mine. Confronted, she ended that, but the real issues began. She lied about staying late at work while at her special friend's house. The kids and I were at home while she cuddled up with him spending our money. She went on dates, lied about her whereabouts, got dressed to the nines to meet him, met his parents while claiming they were just friends, and even brought someone back to our house at night while I worked and the kids were asleep. She also slept with someone else at work. Single, going on 8 years next year, and I'll never trust a woman again. If you're suspicious, you're probably right. Story 61. I have a 14-year relationship, 9 married. I logged into her emails and found 5,000 messages to the guy she'd been having a long-distance affair with for 5 years. Suddenly, everything made sense. The trips where she didn't tell me where she stayed, the lack of intimacy, and all the little things I hadn't noticed before. That was 11 years ago, and I haven't been able to trust anyone since. Story 62. For me, there were absolutely zero signs until one day he said he needed space and was feeling a lot of anxiety. There were no issues in our relationship, everything was going smoothly, so I was completely blindsided. Some people are extremely good at covering their tracks and not showing any signs until they want out. He planned on never telling me to save face, except I discovered an email I shouldn't have seen that mentioned infidelity. Story 63. I noticed when my SO went back home for their birthday for a week, it was implied we would check in via text or phone because I travel a lot for work. 2 days went by with no contact. I figured they were out late, but it continued until they returned. I was told they kissed someone they'd known since childhood. It took me a minute to understand what happened. The same person was coming into town the following week. I left the house saying this could never happen again and that I wasn't okay with it. I later found out the childhood friend did visit but left a few days into their stay. Story 64. It started with extra gym sessions, then more makeup for the gym to boost her self-confidence. She claimed to go to work potluck while I worked late. When I asked later, she had forgotten her cover story. That day, I realized she'd unfriended me on Facebook and hidden her relationship status. A friend sent me a photo of her and a guy from the gym posting couple photos. She was good at cheating, just bad at covering it up. I found out she hadn't been single for years. She overlapped relationships, moving from one man to another every 1 to 2 years. It made me feel bad for her. She clearly wasn't comfortable being by herself. Story 65. He blamed me for cheating, which was really confusing. I asked what I had done to make him think that. He couldn't answer but gaslit me so badly that I apologized for behaving in a way I wasn't. Eventually, it became too much, and I asked for a divorce. Then he confessed he'd been cheating for almost a year. Suddenly, the accusations made sense. Classic projection. I am hyper-aware now when anyone does this. Story 66. My ex made a gaming buddy overseas, which I didn't think much of at first, but she started spending more time with him on Discord outside of gaming. The way she interacted with him was giggly and bubbly, yet with me it was content and indifferent. Being intimate became drab. She was always adventurous before, now it felt like a chore. She blew me off on quality time at home to talk to him. One evening, while prepping supper, I saw her Discord chat calling each other babe and sending kissing emojis. I confronted her, and she immediately wanted a divorce. The irony, she gave me so much grief earlier in our relationship about my one female friend, who I refused to cut ties with. I trusted her, and she's the one who committed infidelity. Story 67. A key sign is when they pick fights, so they have an excuse to leave the house and disappear. When they eventually return, they act like the victim of your crazy behavior, sulking and waiting for you to apologize so they can lecture you about what to change. Then they tell their affair partner how badly they're treated at home, portraying them as the only one who understands, and planning to leave you as soon as certain things happen. Story 68. He started staying in the car after arriving home for another 10 to 15 minutes every day. I found the other person's address in the shared car navigation app. My ex never told me about it. The place was an hour away, so doing a coworker a favor didn't make sense. He wasn't one of the smart ones. It wasn't hard to figure out. Story 69. My girlfriend and I would sleep over at each other's places a few times a week. One morning, she texted, needing a door handle fixed. I had an appointment at her place and figured we could hang out for a bit. She immediately went on the defensive, insisting she wouldn't be home and now wasn't a good time. That was red. Normally she'd be happy to see me, even briefly. I got there, and a man answered the door. She was mortified, making coffee in just a t-shirt, and claimed I didn't know she'd have company. Her only excuse was that she didn't think I would find out, and I could still come over later. A few days later, she called upset that the guy ghosted her. Story 70. It should have been when he kept asking about my other boyfriend, telling me I didn't notice things, or when he broke things off saying I didn't deserve his treatment. He was always randomly mad, never wanting to do what I wanted. I tried to improve myself, but it was never enough. I gave him too much benefit from the doubt, thinking he was going through something he wasn't ready to share. I've hardly ever been the problem in relationships, and I still feel disappointed in myself for allowing that treatment. Story 71. After a business trip, she became distant. She went from holding my hand and sitting close to keeping her hands in her pockets and putting pillows between us. She was constantly typing on her phone and hiding it. She had met and slept with a man during that trip, and was staying in touch with him. That ended our 12-year relationship. Story 72. I had suspicions due to staying out late and not answering calls, but no proof, so I kept it to myself. 2 years into a 14-year relationship, there was some cheating and a request to open the relationship. After moving out, I saw the person I suspected in the People You May Know section on Facebook. I asked him directly, and he confirmed she was telling people we had broken up and trying to sleep with several others. Some admitted it to me. This happened around the time our daughter was conceived, so now I'm debating a paternity test. I don't know if I'll ever trust someone again, which sucks because I'm good enough to date without constantly questioning someone's every move. Story 73. It is a gut feeling you will know. Usually starts with you not feeling important to them anymore, almost as if their priorities and focus are elsewhere. They will not want to be around you as much. Instead of cuddling up watching a movie, they will want to lie on the phone or sleep. They stop talking about future unless you bring it up. They will not want to do anything with you unless you are the one to ask or offer. Intimacy becomes very infrequent. Routines change. They may start showering before work if they were previously a night shower person. They start shaving before girls' nights or guys' nights. Hiding phone usage or guarding their phone, unexplained but routine later nights at work. If someone is cheating, even if over the phone, it will always escalate to physical cheating. Catching someone cheating over text or Snap is hard because you can delete evidence, but eventually it will become physical, and that is where you catch them. They will slip up on one of those nights out with a friend, or I am going to be at work late, because it will become a routine thing, especially if their job is not the type of job to be at work late, unless they are management where it is already a normal thing. People that cheat often start losing self-control and become sloppy. They will start texting them around you. They will start seeing them more often. You usually only catch them long after they start cheating because they just end up communicating with them and seeing them more as time goes by, making it easier to catch. In the beginning, they may not communicate with them when you are around, or they may keep those late nights at work very infrequent, but it always escalates. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.